Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Unstoppable. Today we have Jeff Schwartz. Jeff has been practicing law for 30 years, bit of a serial entrepreneur, and today you're running a business called Conceive, Believe, Achieve, where you help small businesses grow. Is that right?
Not only small businesses, Rob, but businesses of all nature. In the course of my career, and I actually sold my practice about 5 years ago to get full-time to Conceive, Believe, Achieve, which is the business consultancy practice. Small businesses, large businesses. I've even done some public companies.
So even though you've been practicing law for a while, that was not always the businesses you were in. You started 5 businesses?
Well, this is the 6th business.
This is the 6th business? And they weren't always had anything to do with law or this or business. Tell me a little bit about some of the businesses or the more prominent businesses that you've grown.
Well, any business that is in existence and the owner always thinks is prominent.
Yeah, of course. It's always the most important thing.
So I've always been an entrepreneur, and let's even go back to in college, even being high school and college. I was an ice cream man. I drove a truck. I was a ding-a-ling then. Sometimes things never change. But that included, we had to rent our own truck, buy the gas, set the prices, and drive around, and we hustled. And that was a beautiful thing. Then, after college, I packed up and I moved 3,000 miles away to San Diego, California. I was recruited to go to law school there. Now, here for a 22-year-old kid, stranger in a strange land, I'm going to law school, and any student wants money. And I didn't know the area, so why not start a business? I started a business called Servers Are Us.
Okay.
It's a process serving business. 3 good things about that. 1, I make money.
Yep.
2, I learn the area that I live in. But 3, who are my clients? Attorneys.
Correct. A law student, you want to meet as many attorneys as you possibly can.
And that was pretty successful because through that, I met one of my clients, an attorney who I worked for 5 years. And without going into all the details, after working for 5 years, from a law clerk to legal assistant to an associate attorney, I wanted a window office. I think I earned that. And he refused to give it to me, even though I offered to pay for it. So, being married just 2 years, what do? With permission of my wife, it will be 36 years this month. With permission of my wife, I says, "See ya, bye."
So now it's just how many people are working there right then?
Then,
Yeah.
well, when I started my practice, this is 1988, it was me.
Okay.
9 months later, I hired a secretary, and within 2 years, I'd hired 2 other attorneys, 4 support staff, and had clients of over 420 clients.
And you couldn't get a window office.
I got my own window office. He didn't want to do it, so.
Unbelievable.
So, as you learn with businesses, and I speak to a lot of businesses, and especially these entrepreneurs, and for instance, Howard Hughes, he wouldn't get a subscription, so he built his own magazine. Other people, the smallest things that employers or short-sighted individuals won't give has that spirit inside of you. And I grew. I grew that business, and then I made a determination. This is now in 1990. I made a determination, says, look, I know I can grow a big business. That could have been Schwartz, Shapiro, Kalikas and Company, big, large firm. But Rob, I didn't know all of my clients. So it's very important for me to know my clients. So I told a couple of attorneys, all right, you take 100, you take 100, I'll keep 100. And then I decided I will always know the people who have trusted me to represent them. So interesting to go through a story, if I may.
Of course, go ahead.
So in 1990, now I started practicing law in 87, and this is now 2020. 1990 was the most significant case of my entire legal career. Not the most economically case, but the most significant case. We had the opportunity to be the first ever to sue the skinheads in San Diego County. And we settled with 5 of them. 1 went to trial. Now, this was top news in San Diego County.
A lot of publicity around a case like that.
2 weeks in the newspapers, a closing argument, CBS, ABC, NBC, standing room only. And For a 31-year-old kid, been in practice for 2 years, it was great. I got a lot of other cases. Because of that, you get one, you get more. And that's for businesses, it just shows you do good and good will come.
Yep.
Don't worry about getting out. If you do good, good will come. So as I'm there young and having a good business and being noticed, I get a meeting. One of my clients says, take this meeting. This is back in August of 91. We just finished a census in 2020. Mm-hmm. And the census determines congressional seats. So there was a new congressional seat in San Diego, and I was offered to run for United States Congress. So I did, after I got permission from my wife, because she was pregnant with our daughter at the time, our first child. And I actually signed a contract when she was pregnant with our son. I will not run for office during this pregnancy. So it was an experience, it was challenging. And even though I came in second, and the individual who won served for many years in the federal penitentiary, he had a bribe list they found in his house.
Oh, wow.
But still, 50,000 San Diegans wanted me to be their congressman.
That's a cool accomplishment either way, right? I mean, 50,000 people voting for you for the first time you ever run for office. That's impressive.
Very humbling.
Yeah.
Very humbling. But it was kind of affirming that if you have the passion, and everything I've done in my career is passionate. And my job in working with businesses right now is to find their passion, enhance their passion, so they too can conceive, believe, achieve. But that was not the only business. We talked about 5 businesses.
Yeah.
That's the 6th. So 1998, very interesting point in time in our history. Now, this is Coca Interactive. So in 1998, a client of mine says, Jeff, you ever hear of this thing called e-commerce?
Yeah.
So one day we took a ride to Los Angeles with a Disney marketeer, a Big 5 accountant when there were still Big 5 accountants, a 22-year-old techie, and they had this wonderful idea. They're going to have an online directory because in 1998 it didn't exist. And it was going to be funded by advertising. Well, okay, but where's the real revenue? Where's the there? It didn't happen. They went away. But I like the idea of an online directory, which didn't exist, the entrepreneurial spirit that was within. So to build the business, and again, what I'm helping with businesses right now, what is the model and where do you find your resources? If you're going to get advertisers, who has advertisers? Community newspapers. Now, you're not going to walk into a community newspaper or anyone in business, here, give me all your clients, give me all your advertisers. You've got to provide something from them to make it work. So I hired some developers. We built a software program to take that community newspaper and put it online. Subscription-based revenue, number 1. Then the butcher, who has that quarter-page ad, all of a sudden needs a website, number 2. So we built that out. I was able to get some venture funding from Japan, which is a very interesting thing, working with Japanese investors in the specifics that require. Another lesson that I was taught. And 3 years later, I sold it to a Los Angeles newspaper company.
That's cool.
Look, you enjoy what you're doing, right?
Yep. Always. Every single day.
You have a passion what you're doing.
Every single day.
As long as you do that, work is not a 4-letter word that ends in K.
Totally. And we tell people that all the time. We have that conversation on here all the time that, like, if you're not loving what you're doing and if you're not passionate about it, if you're not getting up every day, like just aching to get out of bed and get to work and kind of start that day again, I mean, I don't know how to do it any other way. You know what I mean? I literally don't. I've actually had some jobs along the way that you just weren't passionate about it. You just weren't giving it your all. You just couldn't see the future. Maybe you don't see a lot. You don't align with leadership, or you don't align with partners, and they might have a different vision than you do, and you just can't kind of get up and be motivated and do this. And I mean, all I did every day was look for the next opportunity. I literally could not do it. I just couldn't be sat there without having that passion, that drive. I mean, we love what we do every single day, and that's what makes it so much fun.
See, when you find the passion, I live by a credo throughout my entire life is conceive, believe, achieve. So when I started a business, then I'll tell you how that happened. That's what I named my business. So things are sometimes impossible. It can't be done. You ever been in an airplane?
Yep.
Not now, but
I've been on an airplane many times. I have not been in a while, though.
so let's figure this out. Here's an airplane, has tons and tons of steel and a lot of weight, but it goes up in the air and it doesn't crash. How about a cruise ship? Tonnage on the water, it doesn't sink. Now, that always didn't happen. So if you think about something, if you have a goal, you have projects associated with that goal, and action steps. Now, there are people in school. I mean, I went to school, you went to school, and we judge things by the GPAs, which is the grade point average. But I'm working with business, I ask them, what is your GPA? And that's your goals, your projects, and your actions. So if you can conceive something and create a plan, because what's the purpose of having a dream if you can't create a reality from it? So there is a process. And whether you're a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, over 300 businesses, there are certain principles that can go forward.
What are some of those key principles?
Well, first of all, you need an immersion process. You can't run a business in an ivory tower. When I started Conceive, Believe, Achieve, I was actually hired as a consultant, then I became a chief operating officer of a company who had a case management system for attorneys and accountants. They were in 3 countries and 34 states. And I was brought in because they had a tech team and they had a sales team. The issue, Rob, is they were operating the one company as 2 silos. The tech was doing their job, sales were doing their job, and they didn't talk to each other. So the first thing I did when I was retained, I went to speak one-on-one with every employee. Now, the tech people, there were people from China, from India, from Russia. There were some culture issues, like, wait, here's a new guy. He's coming to my office one-on-one. Am I getting the hatchet right now? But no, I wanted to listen. And after a time, tech communicated with sales. Sales told tech what the customer wanted, so tech can create what the customer wanted. So one of the principles is understanding your business, all right? Who is your end customer, end user, and run it through their eyes. Otherwise, you're not going to be in business anymore.
And that seems like such a simple concept. Like you would imagine that people that are in business understand what the customers want, but it's not always that simple. It's not always that easy. Sometimes you get so caught up in the day-to-day and so caught up in the grind and so caught up in what you think you want that you forget about who you're actually servicing and what they want.
So you're talking about simplicity, and that is simplicity. When I ran for Congress in 1992, there was a certain governor from the state of Arkansas who was running for president. And Bill Clinton did a fundraiser for me. I had the fortune to get to meet with him many times thereafter. And years after his presidency, I said, Mr. Clinton, Mr. President, what is truly the secret to success in business and in politics and in life? He says, Jeff, very simple. 2 things. 1, find out what people want. 2, give it to them. Kind of what you just said, right? If you don't know what they want, you can't find a way. So my job in life right now is to give advice, to consult, and help businesses. I was asked once in another program, Jeff, who are the people that gave you the best business advice? Well, I told you Bill Clinton, find out what people want and give it to them. We're going to go back in time, Rob, if we can, to 1996. This is 24 years ago. I was practicing law. I had a trial in Santa Ana, California. I went to court, ready to go to trial, and the judge made us wait us in the hallway for an entire day. Didn't say come back in 2 days. He was in the middle of a trial. Came back the next day. Waited in the hallway an entire day with my client, wasting time. Thought it was going to settle. Third day he comes in. He meets with counsel. He says, counsel, I know you've been in the hallway for 2 days. Let me tell you something about me. My biggest trait is I'm lazy. I don't like to work. You make me work, I'm not happy. First of all, you don't expect that, especially when waiting for 2 days. But that piece of advice was sheer brilliance. Why? When I'm talking to somebody, be it business, when you're talking to a customer, make it easy for me to help you. Tell me specifically what you want so I can find a way to get it. Simple, but that's what a lot of the businesses there. Look, I talk about high impact, high income. When you're running a business, you would be a CEO or CFO or a manager, you're doing this. You're looking at your business and you're making sure your business runs a particular way. Now, what I do, I come in with 30 plus years of knowledge. And your high impact income, I'm not a construction guy. I can't build, I don't know if you can build buildings. Have you done that? Have you done building before?
We've built a couple buildings around here.
You personally?
I mean, I personally have been in the trades and I've actually pulled some wire, but I don't think I've ever put the brick up, brick by brick.
So what you know, Rob, you know what your high impact, high income is. And the goal there is to do that as often as possible. But your high impact, high income skills do not make an entire business. So what you got to do, you got to find people who play at what you work at. You got to surround yourself with people. As much as you hate to do something, give me one thing in your job you hate to do.
Paperwork.
I guarantee you, Rob, as much as you hate to do paperwork, there's someone that gets up every morning and has the passion to do paperwork.
Absolutely.
There's a movie where Will Smith portrayed a stockbroker, Chris Gardner. Mm-hmm. It was called The Pursuit of Happiness. And I had a chance to meet Chris Gardner at a corporate council forum once. And his definition of success is something I have on my vision board and I share any chance I can get. Definition of success is love what you're doing so much that you can't wait for the sun to rise to do it again. Now imagine if everyone has that philosophy, if everyone has that passion, what we started from the very beginning, right?
Yeah, it's good advice.
It's humbling. It's humbling to have the opportunity to do what you love, to get paid for it, and to affect other people. I mean, if I may.
Go ahead.
I talked about being humbled with 50,000 San Diegans electing me to Congress. Well, I wasn't elected, at least voted for me.
Yep.
So when I was a law student, I was a 20-something law student, I got involved in this organization called the Law Fraternity. And I remember the 50-something chancellor came to my school. It was very exciting. Well, without going into all the specifics, Rob, 30 years later, I was called by the leadership of the Senate, the Supreme Senate, their board of directors. Jeff, we're having some issues in the fraternity. Would you consider joining? So in 2013, I was elected and served as the chancellor of the oldest and largest law fraternity in the world, 200,000 members. It turned 100 years during my leadership. So I had the unique opportunity to take an organization with that history, past presidents in the United States, members of the U.S. Supreme Court, percentage of the Congress, and I led them into the second century. That, after those 2 years of traveling around the country, being that 50-something chancellor to the 20-something law students, I was so humbled. I says, I can't get the same satisfaction out of practicing law. I sold my business, and I've been helping businesses now.
That's amazing, and it obviously you have a ton of experience, right? To be able to do something like that, to be able to get elected to a position like that, or appointed to a position like that.
I was elected, yeah.
Okay, elected, and then having all of being able to travel all around and having that large network and meeting all those people. Clearly, there's a ton there. There's a ton of knowledge. There's a ton of experience. There's a ton of things that people can kind of extract from you when they bring you into their business. So tell me a little bit about what your process is when you go into a business, and what's the first step to kind of helping someone actually identify what they're trying to achieve.
Very, very good question. I guess that's why you have a talk show here, right?
Yeah, I tried to.
The key step at the very beginning is immersion. Now, I'm brought in at times when people know there's something that's not happening. It could be a transitional issue, whether it be from generation to generation, whether doing a merger or an acquisition, or they have a goal they're meeting. For example, they're at $15 million and they need to get up to $18 million. But they're doing the same thing. They're doing their high impact, high income. They're focused on this. They don't see the other things. We don't know what we don't know. So my question is, ask a lot of questions. We need to look at what are the policies and procedures. Do you have metrics? Metrics for goals. Everyone has metrics for goals. But do you have metrics for employment contentment? Do you do the simple thing of saying thank you at the end of the day? Now, here's a test that I give my clients and potential clients. Businesses should be PC compliant, right? You know what PC is?
No.
Most people say politically correct.
Okay.
But I said, no. You got to be paperclip compliant. All right, Jeff, I'll bite. What does that mean? So, Rob, you're the chief operating officer of Coca. And you keep your environment very clean. You're proud of it. The desks are clear. There's garbage on the floor. You pick up the garbage, you throw it away, right? You're proud of what you're doing so much that if you see a paper clip on the carpet, you're going to pick it up and put it on the paper clip. And all the officers and the CEOs say, yeah. Then I ask, okay, how many of your employees will walk over that paper clip? Or how many will pick it up and do what you do? So in addition to what I do, let's look at the immersion. Let's look what you have, why you can't achieve that goal, or what is happening when you achieve that goal. Let's look at the corporate culture. Is there a consistent communication? Does everyone know who to report to? Everyone know how to communicate? Is there a climate of, I'm fearful to speak to the boss, is going to do that? So that's something, corporate culture. Then I call it a business Bible. Are there rules, policies, procedures, memorandums on each aspect? Now, if you're the chief operating officer, you don't need to know about bricklaying, all right? You may not need to know about Excel spreadsheets, but you need to know enough about everything, and you need to have some policies and procedures where everyone can go there and understand that. So first is communication, then it's a business Bible, and it's accountability, CBA. The key thing is to be self-accountable, because you can be accountable to your company, but if you don't have that interior self-accountability, why are you there? Why are you doing this? And maybe this is not the position for you. So we do the immersion process. We look at the policy and procedures. I understand from...
So I would imagine, and I'm going to dive in deep here, right? I would imagine you're coming into businesses and they're bringing you in because there's issues, there's problems, there's something that is just not running the way they want it to run. They can't get to that next level, right? And what happens if the answer is, okay, you do all this research, you talk to all these people, everyone needs to be self-accountable, everyone needs to kind of do their part, but they're not. Right? And thank God we have a culture around here where I processed that, like, who around here wouldn't pick up that paperclip? And I literally can't think of a single person that wouldn't pick up that paperclip or wouldn't do their part. And I'm very thrilled that I could say that, right? But I've been in businesses where that is not the case. What do you do? How do you motivate? How do you get them up to speed? You can't just come in and say, you know what, I'd fire everybody. That's just not practical or realistic. So what do you do? How do you turn that around?
Well,
specifically when it comes to culture.
Sure. You can't fire everyone. I'm going to go through another story because I've learned as an attorney, when I was a litigator, you go into a trial and you're there for a week and you're listening to evidence and witnesses, And after an entire week, I have 20 minutes to describe what just happened over that period of week. So I like to use examples. So you're in a situation where people are not in that culture. And then maybe it's a leadership style. A couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to be the commencement speaker at Stony Brook University College of Business. And after I presented to the graduates, I had the question and answer period. I gave them that opportunity. And one thing I said about leadership, to be a true leader is you take all the blame and you share all the credit. And they didn't understand that.
I believe that.
You didn't understand. Most people didn't. Why is that? I says, if in fact, as a leader, something went wrong, you didn't do the right thing. If in fact you're successful, it's because of all the people that made you that way. And imagine how you're making them feel. If you have to terminate somebody, that means you as a leader did not do a good job of hiring them, teaching them, or training them. And sometimes this was not meant for them. This was not their play. But if you brought them in and they're working with the company, there's a reason for that. So communication, the first of the CBA, communication. Understand what's wrong. You can't, again, you like that company, the case management company, they were running the business in an ivory tower.
I want to, you said that, and I really want to harp on it.
Sure.
And production team, when you watch this, I want to chop it up and I want to post it everywhere on social media because it's very, very important. You said something that when things go wrong, it's a leader's fault. You know, you take the blame. When things go right, you share all the credit, right? And I think a lot of people forget that. I think a lot of leaders forget that. I think a lot of people, when things don't go right in their business, their first reaction is to point fingers. Well, they didn't do their job. They didn't do this right. You know what? You know, we have processes for this. Why didn't you follow them? And I do firmly believe that if they're not being followed, that's because you did something wrong to make it so that people have the either opportunity not to follow them or don't understand them enough not to follow them. So I'm a huge believer in what you just said, and I want to make sure everyone heard it, comprehends it, and processes it. If something goes wrong, as a leader, take the blame. If something goes right, as a leader, share in all the success, because a lot of people forget that. And I hope I do that well. I hope that everyone understands, you know, when they're working with me, that I truly value all their input and everything that they do. And I hope they get that feeling from me. But and if they don't, I apologize. But I really do believe that. I think that and I think that people do that. I've seen it so many times. People don't do that well, and it's a big deal. And people feel it, you know. People feel when they do their job and they do something right, and all of a sudden someone's taking the credit for it, or someone's they forget to say, hey, they did a great job around here, you know, and that sucks, you know what I mean? And I think that people really need to kind of comprehend that, instill it, and implement it, because it'll go a long way when it comes to building that culture.
How simple is that also?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you have a team member, and they go home and they've had what does it cost you to say thank you?
Yeah.
Nothing. What does it mean to them? It says, wow, my chief operating officer recognized me and thanked me for that. I learned a lesson.
And it's really more humanity, right? It's not even so much like, you know, no one's putting anybody on a pedestal or you know, listen, somebody does a good job. I don't care who it is. It doesn't have to be, you know, boss to employee or together, you know, teammate to teammate. Great job. Like, you figured that one out. Awesome. You know, thank you very much. And it could be anyone that gives the good input, you know, gets you over that challenge, gets you over this. And I mean, please and thank you. I mean, it's a pretty standard thing, but people forget to do it. People have this hierarchy thing going on in their mind, and they think that, like, they don't have to say thank you. They don't have to give credit. And that's shitty, you know, and people sometimes forget that.
So let me ask you a question. As I'm driving down to Colca, I notice there's a sign that says Jack Colca Way.
There is.
How many years has Colca been in business?
46 years.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
There's a reason. That's why businesses succeed. And we both know businesses that can't make it 5 months.
Yep.
So that's why that culture, the communication, the business Bibles, the accountability, all these principles are important. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know. If you're doing it and you're stuck, all right, you're doing what you're doing best. Let me find out. Let me go dig deep. Let me go down the immersion. Let me find out what people want and give it to them. As long as you do that, you're not going anywhere.
Totally. And again, it's not always easy. It's not. Sometimes people create. I bet a lot of people out there that are listening, right, created a service or a product, right? And they created this and they designed this based on what somebody wanted, right? And maybe you were really good at it, and maybe it was what a lot of people wanted 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Maybe it was something that you thought you wanted and not a lot of people wanted. But you have to constantly be changing and constantly be evolving and constantly understand who your customers are, what they're looking for, not what they were looking for 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, what they're looking for now, what they're looking for today. And you have to create your product or your service and you have to give it to them. And that sounds so simple, right? But people forget it. People forget it. They go to a meeting, right? And they, you go to on a quote unquote sales call and you go talk to somebody and you say, what are you looking for? And I'm looking for X, Y, and Z. Okay, great. And maybe you even ask some questions. Okay, what's important to you? What's not? What's this? And they're talking, but you're not listening, right? Because you know that at the end of whatever they say, the next thing that's coming is the same thing that comes every single time you've been doing it for the last 20 years. And boom, here's my product, and here's what we do. And you try to shove that round peg into that square hole, and it doesn't work. And, sometimes you just have to stop, think, comprehend, really understand, like, when's the last time I changed up my product, changed up my service? When's the last time we evolved into the next level and the next thing? When's the last time you called 5 customers and said, hey, what is it that you want? Are we giving you what you expect? Are we providing the service that you want? What could we do better? Because there's nobody that's going to tell you better than your customers. And people forget it. And it's simple, but they just forget to do it.
It's simple because, look, you're involved in running the business. And when you're focused on that, there are things you don't understand or you forget. You could be successful 3 years ago. And here's a question I ask everybody, and I'll ask you as well. Can you remember a time in your life when you were successful, the most successful you ever were?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to know what it was. It makes no difference.
Yeah.
But by answering that question, you've proven 2 things to me. Number 1, you know how to be successful because you identified yourself as successful. Number 2, if you've done it once, you can do it again. So the magic is to design your life and design your business with all the environments that you were living at that moment in time. Where you're living, who you're surrounding with, what does your physical space look like, who is your relationships. So you did it once, you can do it again.
And to build on it, right? Just because I could identify myself as successful at a point in time doesn't mean I'm satisfied, right? So it's relative, right? I felt I was very successful at doing things that I did at a certain point of time. At that moment in my life, I had considered it successful. That does not mean it's satisfied. I consider on a daily basis there's successes along the way. I've accomplished things that we set out to do. When you look at it from on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a yearly basis, there are these successes. Just because you consider yourself quote unquote successful doesn't have to mean you're satisfied, right? There's a big difference. You could always strive for more. You could be successful and still not be where you want to be. That doesn't mean you're not successful. And again, not to preach, right? But a lot of people, a lot of times, feel like they're so worried about the end point, right? They're so worried about when they get there, like their defined version of quote unquote success, that they don't consider or they don't acknowledge their successes along the way. They just feel like, oh, well, I didn't get there. I didn't get my business to have 50 employees or make $5 million a year or whatever it is they define as success. They don't consider it successful because they're not there yet. And there's a difference between success and being satisfied or striving for more. Success in my mind, has plateaus, right? There's minor successes, small successes, and I think that people have to think about it when they're planning. They have to think about it that way, right? In order to get to where I'm satisfied or the end goal, let's set plateaus, right? There's plateaus and milestones of success along the way, right? Because if I accomplish X, Y, and Z in 2021, well, that's a success for me. I'm considering myself successful at that moment. You don't have to wait till the end game. Don't lose out on the journey just because you're worried about the end game and the satisfaction at the end, because then people sit back and they're afraid to say they're successful because they didn't get to where they want to be yet. And I've seen that a lot.
Let me go a little more granular using your term on that particular issue. We talked about your goals, your projects, and actions.
Yep.
And imagine if every day you took, well, let's say 3 actions for happiness, for health, and wealth. But every day you took 1 action towards your success.
Yeah.
Just 1. Imagine after a year, that's over 300 successful things. And if you created your own environment a win, you got to celebrate even the smallest thing. If you had a project and you had a deadline and you met it, yeah. Or you came to work even though you came up on the wrong side of the bed. If you get up in the morning and you look outside, it's going to be a crappy day. Guarantee it's going to be a crappy day. But you get in the morning, you look outside, this is going to be a wonderful day. It's the same thing as happening outside, how you conceive it. And if you can celebrate multiple successes, even little successes, every day. Now, I know you got 3 kids.
Yep.
You're happy when you go home, you see your kids. You smile. That's a win, Rob. That's your life. And if you take that excitement, that energy, and whatever you do, your home life, your personal life, you're going to be happy for it. And if you're happy and you're running a business is around for 46 years, tell me you're not going to be a leader to generate that and give that same kind of environment to your people.
Talk about contagious, right? Talk about contagious. We have that. Listen, that happens around here, right? Like, we like to think, and we have a pretty kind of happy workplace, right? Where music's playing, things are going on, everyone's kind of joking, everyone's kind of messing around. Like, it's fun. Like we have a good time. We remember that we're at work a lot, right? And you got to enjoy yourself. But there's times where business is just not going as planned, right? Especially this year. I mean, how many people had business not go as planned, right?
I've been very busy because of that.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm sure, but that's just the way it is, right? And you talk to people and you hear about people all the time. Some people, you're in the mortgage industry. Some people are financial. They had the greatest year of their life. Other people had the worst year of their life, and it all depends, right? But that could happen at any moment in time, and it doesn't have to be defined in a year. It could be defined in a week. It's defined in 2 weeks. Sometimes things are just not going well, and you have a bad week or a bad couple days. I could tell you right now, when things are around here and things are going bad and leadership starts getting in a rut and Devin and I start getting we start getting cranky, and that you could see it sprinkle throughout the entire business. Everyone feels that energy. Everyone feels it starting from the top, right? Devin comes in and I tell him all the time, you're having a bad day, man. Everyone knows it, and it trickles right through down to everybody. There's not one person in here that doesn't feel you're having a bad day. And for that, he tries to keep it upbeat. He always tries to, like you said, get out of bed and say, it's going to be a great day. And when he does it and he comes in, you know what I mean? It trickles down and everyone feels it and everyone understands it and it motivates people, right? Everyone you get that energy and it flows throughout the company. And it's a big part. It's a huge part of everyone just enjoying their day and getting work done and being productive. And I don't know, people sometimes, it's a small thing that could be changed by anybody. Just have that positive outlook. Come to work with the energy that you want everyone to have, and it'll trickle through.
How wonderful is it? First of all, this is not Camp Coca. It's good, but people know when they come here, it's a job.
Yep.
And if you got to do a job, enjoy it. Make it worth. Use your high impact, high income. Have with that passion.
But more importantly, if you get them to come here and they want to do their job, not they have to.
Because you're creating that environment. You're creating the
better.
culture. You've got the policy and procedures. You've put down accountability. So that's why you've been successful for decades. But I'll tell you, you can't rest in your laurels. Things are changing. What happened as early as 3 months ago and 6 months ago is completely different right now.
Yeah.
So you have to be innovative. You have to have that belief. We talk about conceive. You have to have a conception of what you're going to do, how it's going to change. And it's okay to live for today, but what about tomorrow? You got to have that plan. I say goals, projects, and actions. So if you got that down pat and you can guide it, because you're only going to achieve what you set forth achieving. You're not going to live a life or a business by default. It's got to be by design. And the clearer the design, the clearer the vision, the clearer the specificity is. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but just for a moment, close your eyes, Rob. Be with me.
I can't close my eyes. My face is all screwed.
All right.
Go ahead.
So you go into a store, and you see this old lady in the store in the supermarket, and she's by a counter, and there's something yellow there. And then all of a sudden, she's cutting things, and you see these things that are skirting out. All of a sudden, you smell something, and then your mouth starts watering. Open your eyes. Did you taste the lemon? That took, what, 30 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
So specificity, if you want to get something done, the greater specificity, whether it be the goal for today or the goal for 3 months or a year from now, the greater you understand it, the greater you conceive it, it's going to happen. It's going to happen because it has happened. I mean, 30 years plus I've been doing this, 300 different business, product, service, large, small, public, private. It's simple, but sometimes you need to stop. Okay, I'm doing business. Let me bring something. Why is it not working? Do what you do best and bring people in to do what they do best.
Yeah, and people that want to pick up the paperclip when they're walking by. People that want to solve the challenges. People that want to make the company better. If you could surround yourself with people like that, things become a lot easier.
How fun has this been? And this is part of your business, right?
Yeah. You know, it's funny. We talk about all the time. We call ourselves we've been in business for 46 years, right? But we call ourselves a 46-year-old startup, right? And the reason why is we're striving to do things so differently than we've always done, right? And something that we talk about, a concept, is in 10 years, you know what we want to be? A 56-year-old startup, right? Because we always want that drive, that innovation, that what's the next best thing. And even if it means revamping all your beliefs because the world moves fast, right? Technology moves fast, right? Technology is a big part of what we do around here. And even that means revamping what you know for the last 56 years, 46 years, whatever it is, everything you've known, right? You got to provide and give people what they want, right? And that might be, in 10 years, what people want today is going to be a lot different than what they want in 10 years. It's just, there's no way around it, right? There's no way I could say right now I'm giving people exactly what they want. You know, in 10 years it's going to be the same. It's just not. It's just not. So you've got to constantly be evolving, and I hope to always have that mentality and culture that we're a 56, 66-year-old startup that's constantly innovating and constantly striving to give the people what they want or that next best thing.
There are going to be jobs that your kids are going to be doing that don't exist today.
And you don't even know what they are.
Exactly.
You don't even know what they are. People that are young, 22, 23, 24, by the end of your career, you could be doing jobs that don't exist today. And people, it's not like it was, 20, 30 years ago, right? And it's unfortunate, right? But so many people back then had a job for 30 years, right? You come out of college, you get a job, you stick with that company, and you're with that company all the way to the end, and it changes so fast. Companies it was hard to start a company 30 years ago and stay in business for 30 years. My dad's been in business now for 30 years. Jack's been in business for 46 years. That's a big deal, right? People don't keep companies for that long, right? It's going to be even harder now, right? Because the service you create today, there might not be a need for it in 5 years because technology is taking it over.
I'm going to challenge you. It's not going to be hard only if you make it hard.
If you don't evolve.
That's
you don't evolve.
That's true.
But that concept, it's not simple for a lot of people. It's simple, but I've seen a lot of people get in their own way.
Well, see, if they get their own way, they're not fully conceive, believe, achieving. I mean, do what you do best and surround yourselves with other people. If you're making, let's say, $100 an hour, that's your value, $100 an hour. I don't care if you're $500, $5,000, or $1 million an hour. If you're making $100 an hour, and that's what you got to do every day to make $100 an hour, and you're doing a job that's a $5 an hour job, you're losing money. You're not using that high impact. You're not doing what you can do. If you're running to a brick wall, you run into a challenge, that's business. I see that. I see so many different kinds of challenges, but solutions are very similar. They just can be adapted. Whether you say you're a butcher, a baker, or a candlestick maker, there are certain basic principles, and we've talked about a lot of them during this time, that people have to be reminded or they have to develop. And once you do that, there's no turning back. I mean, you can only be successful, however you define that.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I like it. Well, listen, like I said, before we even started this, you and I can probably talk for hours. I'm sure we've been talking for a while now. Thank you very much for coming in. It's been a total pleasure. If people want to get in touch with you, how do they do it?
Not only that, for anyone that has watched this show on Coca Interactive, I've been very fortunate, so I'm going to give a gift, all right? It's my obligation and my pleasure to give a gift back. I will provide any viewer a set of tools for the business, and I will give them a complimentary immersion process, which I usually value at over $300. All they got to do is mention Coca Active, and they'll do it. Now, how do they do that? I give my phone number, which is 516-524-5315, or the website, cba-consultant.com. And lastly, the email, which I'm sure is going to be available too, the way I live, focused.positive@cbaconsultant.com.
Awesome. Awesome. And anybody who didn't get that, it will be up on you're going to get a bio and a profile on Colca Interactive like all our guests do. So you can click on his bio, you can visit his website, reach out, pick his brain, get the free consultation. Thank you very much.
No. I got to say, not a free consultation because it's free. It has no value. It's a valued gift.
A valued gift. Go get it. All right.
Thanks,
Jeff,
Rob.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming in. I had a blast.
Take care.